Yeah, I think they're just so invested in mass immigration. I mean, really, that
Yeah.
is like this sort of the shelling. Like that's what they're. If you could really reduce down the left, it's like they're all in on immigration, mass migration, and ICE is like the one obstacle, other than say it's people like Stephen Miller. That's the one obstacle to that, and I think that's just like their most important. They've decided that that is what they're all in on.
Hey everyone, Tate Brown here, holding it down for Tim Pool. I've got a great interview with the Captive Dreamer, prominent X/Twitter poster, legendary poster. He's here to discuss leftism, Hassan Piker, what's going on with all of that. It's a great interview. We really get down in the weeds. So make sure you watch till the end. It's really fantastic stuff. Look, a lot of people are going to know who you are. You're a prominent poster, but for the audience, people in the audience that maybe don't know who you are, maybe you could give a quick introduction of who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of a notorious internet troll. Some may say an internet poster. I guess I've always kind of posted. I've enjoyed posting, but the thing that got me on the map was the sort of the Haiti Springfield stuff that got picked up by the Trump campaign, which I'm pretty proud of. But that's kind of my big claim to fame. If you were my 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful, and that kind of really showed the power of posting. I mean, for people in the audience maybe don't remember, the Trump administration, or sorry, the Trump campaign kind of going into the 2024 election, it did feel like the energy was down a little bit. It's like we needed a little oomph. And then out of nowhere, this story comes out of Springfield, Ohio, where these Haitian migrants that have just been dumped in the city of Springfield were eating cats and dogs inexplicably. And it was in large part because the Captive Dreamer here was shining the spotlight on it. And the next thing you know, we're watching the debate. It comes up, and then we're eating the dogs, we're eating the cats. It's really a
It was
seminal
within
moment.
within like 3 or 4 days. It had gone from just like a post on the internet to right on the presidential debate stage. So it was pretty. They were betting on it on Poly Market. You
Yeah.
could bet on whether Trump was going to mention it. So it was pretty cool. Pretty cool to
Yeah.
see.
Well, I wanted to bring you in specifically to talk. We saw yesterday a really, really white pilling moment where Trump, he's obviously meeting with a lot of prominent conservatives in kind of a roundtable discussion. They're talking about leftist violence, Antifa, how we should deal with it. And I can't remember the journalist that brought up asking him about designating Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization. And Trump kind of asks the room, he's like, what do you guys think? Is this a good idea? Obviously, Jack Posobiec, Patriot, he says, yeah, it's a great idea. And Trump just kind of taps the room. That's really, really exciting because I think that really opens us up to treating Antifa like Al-Qaeda. I know you have a lot of thoughts on how Antifa should be dealt with. I mean, I was wondering what your reaction was to that yesterday.
Well, it's good because the important thing is to go after these like networks behind the scene, right? I mean, you can't just go after the individual actors. It's really about this, the Soros funded networks that are bailing these people out, that are getting them to go in and riot and protest. And so this opens up a lot more tools to go after because I don't know. I posted about this recently, but organizations like the Canadian government, they fund these sort of Antifa adjacent groups to do op-ed, like research hit pieces on people. They did it on me too, but they're funded by the government. So this allows, opens a lot more doors to countering that kind of influence, which is notoriously difficult to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like something when you really see these people get unmasked, you see a particular strain of human being that you don't really encounter in everyday, or maybe we do encounter in everyday life, but we don't see that side of them in everyday life. I mean, something that was really exemplifying this was this video that's been circulating over the last day or two of streamer Hassan Piker, obviously a friend of the show. Um, this is alleged, so like I don't want to get like I don't know, sued if you can get sued for this. This is alleged, obviously, but it appears that his dog had a shock collar on, and he like moved from the designated wholesome camera spot that like looks really good on camera, and then he just zapped him like Palpatine or Mike Pence or something. Like it was really wild. I mean, does that just kind of exemplify what kind of people we're dealing with here, or what? I mean, I know you have some thoughts.
Well, what's funny too is that dog sits there. I mean, I've never watched this show, but someone did a time lapse, and the dog sits there for like 4 hours straight, like in the one spot, and
Right.
it was the one time it moved. But a lot of these people weaponize this type of empathy or whatever, political empathy that they go into, like communism or socialism, whatever. But really, what it is it's like a way for them to justify their sort of like resentment and their envy and hatred, and turn it into something that makes it look less obviously negative. You know what I mean? Like so,
Mm-hmm.
so instead of saying, "Well, I hate the world and I want to destroy everything," you can kind of couch it, or you can kind of hide that behind a mask of being a good person, being a heckin' good person, right? That's what we always
Right.
hear from these guys. And the same person saying be a good person is openly celebrating political assassinations and making memes mocking Charlie Kirk, right? So that's the same type of person, the same
Hmm.
personality is there behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
and the Piker is a great example. Like he's like the
Right.
example, the best example of that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, because that's really where the pushback really has begun. Is like John Doyle makes this point all the time, Patriot, where he talks about how there's this tendency on the right to want to just go back to like the 1990s, right? The 1980s, 1990s. But he makes this point of like, look, if you really want to exterminate leftism, you can't just ratchet it back to like an earlier form of liberalism and not expect like the outcome to be leftism, because that's just going to be the case every single time. Um, and I think that's a great point. And that's what I kind of see with what we're seeing now with, I think this strain of thinking, this ideology has existed for well over 50, 60 years. It's just now they're so emboldened, probably because they've accumulated so much institutional power, that they feel like they're just allowed to say things like that. And I think people are finally seeing like, oh, this has been there the whole time. It's just now they're finally saying it out loud.
It's like this. It's like the stuff with the great replacement theory that they say, well, it's not happening, but then when you kind of show that it is happening, well, they say, well, it's actually good that it's happening. And so, yeah, we
Right.
have reached a period where there's been so little pushback for so long, and every major social media platform has propped these people up, right? I mean, Twitch has basically stuck by Hassan Piker, interviewing terrorists, doing all kinds of stuff. Everyone, the left has been in control of Twitter, of all of these things for so long, and now it's just they're realizing, okay, well, are we the bad guys? It's almost like they're having this moment
Yeah.
where we've been saying this terrible stuff for so long and gotten away with it, and now there's this really big cultural pushback after, especially after the Charlie Kirk assassination, that
Hmm.
people are realizing, okay, these are actually just like really bad people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, something that's been really interesting to me in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination is actually the reaction was almost more shocking to me, because I kind of expected leftists to react that way, if I'm being honest. I mean, I know a lot of people were shocked because they knew some of these people personally. So that's obviously, my heart goes out for those people because you think you know someone, that sort of thing. But I was a little bit more surprised at the reaction for people on the right. They seem to be so quick to let like the left off the hook for this. Like we have this opportunity to really finally break this that's been tormenting us for decades. And there was this tendency to immediately absolve the left. And I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if they're saying, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make sure like the leftists don't get punished. But they immediately like looked for alternative explanations. Like, maybe Israel did this, or maybe it was an inside job, or, maybe Qatar did. You're seeing all sorts of these explanations from people on the right. And that's what really surprised me. I don't know if you're seeing the same stuff.
It's kind of an outgrowth of what happened during COVID, right? And COVID was very good in terms of shattering the trust in the expert class, right? They kind of
Mhm.
lost all of their credibility for many reasons, and what that did is that opened the door to uh, sort of democratizing explanations for things, which led to conspiracies and all these things. And not all conspiracies are wrong, but there's this tendency almost to want to go towards the most complicated possible, most convoluted explanation possible. And whether or not they intentionally were trying to sort of take away the blame from the left, that's the outcome or the effect of trying to say, well, no, it wasn't Tyler Robinson. No, he didn't. It wasn't his transgender roommate. All this stuff. Whether that's the intent or not, that's the outcome, and that's the effect of it. Is to say, well, and if you go into Blue Sky, actually, you'll find a lot of people on Blue Sky, leftists, who are saying the same type of thing, right? Like that's Israel or the
Right.
Zionists, or it was this corrupt FBI hit job, and because they know that they can get away with deflecting the blame.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Israel stuff seems especially kind of interesting to me because the attack vector that people on the right are using, there's like a lot of fair criticisms of Israel. I mean, I'm in no means an Israel shill. I'm kind of like with Tim. I just kind of am fairly ambivalent on the issue. I actually kind of use Connor Tomlinson. He has a great line on it, and I totally agree. Is I just really want what Israel has, but for Americans. Like if we could just
Yeah,
create an American version of Israel, I'd be okay with that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but some of the like attack vectors people on the right are using are like leftist arguments. Like they're talking about international law, or they're like saying, well, they're like appealing to like human rights violations and these sorts of things. And I'm like, okay, sure, but that's just not really, that's not a vector of attack that's threatening to the liberal world order in any meaningful way.
Yeah, that's an issue actually that I talked about at length right after the October 7th attacks, and it gained me a lot of enemies on the internet, right? But I was basically trying to say, like, you can criticize Israel without adopting the frame of the left, right? Without
Right.
adopting this sort of language that's going to get you it's going to get you allies in terms of like the third world or the Muslim world, but those are the same people who will then not give you, like if you talk about crime or immigration, they're not going to be on board with you on that stuff
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was warning people is like you can build a coalition with these people, but if you're an American patriot or European patriot, whatever, it's going to backfire spectacularly when it comes time to ask these people to give you some support on your issues of again of the border, of immigration, of these things. And we've seen now that that's kind of exactly what's happened, where they've been sort of cannibalized by the audience that they've cultivated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're seeing that even with Americans. I mean, obviously, and we'll talk about it more in a little bit, like with the third world, but even with Americans, we had this really sort of delicate coalition going into the election of like the broadcasters, I think is what the media is kind of termed, like, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Tim Dillon. And they had their issues. Maha was really big for them, and as it should. That's a really important issue. I mean, I obviously am very Maha. Um, and they were kind of like maybe they're a little bit on legal immigration. They maybe hadn't thought about it that much. And then so as
Mhm.
soon as these videos start coming out of the more physical interactions ICE is having to have with the illegals they're trying to deport and detain, they flake immediately and they freak out and they're like, surely there's another way to do this. The line I always hear is, do we really have to do the high school graduations? And I'm sitting here like, yeah, we kind of do. I mean, what did you think mass deportations looked like? Vibes, essays?
Well, what's interesting is that that's sort of televised and public and commented on, but what's not is, I don't really remember Rogan, and maybe I'm wrong, or Theo Von talking about sort of the mass swarming of the border under Biden, right? The people like lining up at the border, getting fed by these NGOs, getting brought in, committing crime. It's very easy to sort of pinpoint one specific event of like an ICE guy who's tackled somebody, but if you're going to do that, then I better have been seeing you for the past 4 years complaining about the millions of people that flooded the southern border, which I don't think they have, and so it seems a little sort of cowardly to me. I understand, sort of the reticence that some of these people have, and especially
Hmm.
like someone like Theo Vaughn. He's like, man, he's like, I don't want to get shot.
Yeah.
But that kind of shows you that there's this leftist. He's afraid of the left, right?
Right.
There's this heckler's veto almost, where he's willing to kind of make little snide jokes about, oh, Israel don't take me out, or the FBI don't take me out, but he's really afraid of some sort of crazed leftist
Yeah.
assassin. That's at the end of the day, that's what he's afraid of. So until that gets kind of under control, I think you're going to see people still try and have one foot in both camps and say, well, I supported this, but I don't want the excesses, which aren't really excesses. They're framed in a way that's tried to make them look bad, right? That's all it is.
Mm.
So
That's a great point, actually. That yeah, he makes these like, don't kill me, don't kill me, but he would never say like, hey, Antifa, don't kill me, because it's like they would actually see that as like an invitation.
an invitation or something, right?
Yeah. Well, Tim caught a lot of flack for this position he took on the show, like a week or two ago, where he was kind of criticizing the ICE agents' propensity to mask. They often mask to protect their identities. But he made a
Mhm.
point in this argument. I think it was actually a really good point that a lot of people missed because they were very upset with this point, with this take, rather. He said part of it is that it's so unacceptable that we're 9 months into a Trump administration and we haven't sufficiently broken the left enough where Antifa officers still fear. Like, they should be able to operate with total impunity. And you kind of alluded to it with Theo Vaughn, like where he's afraid to kind of make jokes in that certain specter, is it really does show how entrenched this leftist power is and how everyone knows that they're willing to go there. They're willing to use political violence if they don't like what you have to say.
Well, the mask thing too, like if you're familiar at all with like cartel country or stuff from Mexico, I mean, the federal police in Mexico will, the real heavy hitters will wear masks.
Mm,
And specifically, it's for that reason, right? Because they know the cartels are going to take out their family or whatever. So it
sure.
does show, again, that the threat is real, and we need to be, 9 months to me. I mean, I'm a survivor of the Trump one term, where we had all the expectations in the world, and everything kind of conspired against it. So I'm a little more willing to be patient just going forward, but it
Mhm.
is obviously something that needs to be dealt with long term going forward for sure.
So I would consider you. You'll deny this because you're a humble man, but I would consider you like one of the more tastemakers. I would say on kind of the right wing. Like I think a lot of people do, look to your takes as kind of guidance on. It's like what's a style chart? Is that what the AP sends out to the press?
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
and you've emphasized the importance of like, okay, it takes a while to reorient a lot of these institutions towards the right because they've obviously been used to they've been weaponized against the right for so long. So it obviously takes a bit of time. Me as a Zoomer, I'm 24, so I was 14 when Trump came down the escalator. So I don't
Mhm.
really remember a GOP prior to Trump. So I don't know. Do you have maybe what's your sort of, I guess, message to Zoomers that are kind of dissatisfied with the pace of Trump's policy implementation? Because it's very, very vehement on the right. I just anecdotally in my circles, people are always complaining.
It's totally understandable, but you have to remember at the end of the day that personnel is policy, right? And so personnel is what you want to be replacing. And Biden basically gutted these institutions and replaced all of the patriots, whether it was in the military or whether it was in the FBI or whatever, and basically filled it with these leftist agitators, Democrat Party, apparatchiks, whatever. And so you can turn things around, but if you have people below you who are not willing to carry out the policy or will sabotage you. And I think I'll segue that back into the Trump one campaign or Trump one term, because that was really what happened there. I mean, you had Trump won, but the GOP was still completely hostile to him, right? They were still stuck in this sort of Mike Pence, Paul Ryan, this old school, cut taxes
Hmm.
and big business. Like it was very boring. It was very hard to get excited about politics. I think that's why when Trump came down, a lot of us were like, oh wow, finally, finally we're going to get somewhere here. And then what happened was his own party sort of stifled him. The Democrats, put him under investigation the entire time. And so it was a disappointment, not because they weren't trying to do the right things, but I don't think they were prepared for the level of how entrenched the interests opposing them were. And I
Yeah.
think now with the second term, it does seem like they're, especially people like Stephen Miller, they're much more aware of getting the right people in the right places so that they can do what they want. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm much more willing to be patient. It's been 8 years. It's
Yeah.
been an 8 long years since that. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm always cautiously optimistic these days because the messaging is great. The messaging has been
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic, and so we just
DHS
need
could be a
the
mutual for all anyone knows. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Something wanted. I mean, it's kind of to steer back to kind of how we opened up the conversation. Um, what is it? I've been kind of diving into this the last few days on the show. What specifically about ICE is it that animates the left and these hard left agitators? There's something specifically out of all the agencies that pose a threat to their life, their livelihood, rather not their life, but their lifestyle. For one, HHS taking their seed oils and soy away would have massive implications on them. But you never really see much vitriol towards HHS beyond like kind of like little snippy comments. But something about ICE specifically really motivates them to go all out and like literally risk their lives. What do you think? What do you think's going on there?
That's $1 million question, honestly, because they're not even that vitriolic towards the police or
Right.
or even Customs and Border Patrol. Remember, there was that famous picture of the guy lassoing the migrants
Oh
on he's on a
yeah.
horse, right? That
Yeah.
was just pretty kino.
Yeah.
And they were angry about that, but they're not angry enough to go out and protest and follow their cars. I think. Yeah, I think they're just so invested in mass immigration. I mean, really, that
Yeah.
is like this sort of the shelling. Like that's what they're. If you could really reduce down the left, it's like they're all in on immigration, mass migration, and ICE is like the one obstacle, other than say it's people like Stephen Miller. That's the one obstacle to that, and I think that's just like their most important. They've decided that is what they're all in on, and
Yeah.
so they're threatened. I mean, I think they're genuinely threatened, and that's the optics of picking people up off the street does kind of hit home. It kind of makes it more real, right? Like the police don't do that. The police, they'll arrest someone in the midst of a burglary or go talk to someone at the door. But there's something about ICE just like grabbing somebody
Yeah.
and saying, you don't belong here, right? Maybe
Right.
that's what it is. You don't belong here.
Right. And it's so true. I mean, yeah, I was talking to Richie McGinnis yesterday, Total Patriot, great guy. I was talking to him on the show yesterday, and we kind of came to this. We made this point about Portland And he pointed this out, is like it's the whitest city metro area in the United States by far. It is a very,
Hmm.
very, very white city. And then it
Hmm.
also is, the point I made is, it also happens to always be the hotbed of leftist activism. And for whatever, I mean, I don't want to get into like the anthropology of their like politics or that sort of thing. Richie actually did a great job breaking it down, but there is something kind of ironic about how Portland being the whitest city, it's almost like it's the hub or the haven for anti-white or self-hatred, because that ultimately seems to be what drives a lot of this vitriol against ICE, is their sort of slavish devotion to mass immigration. They kind of want to get replaced in their own country, and you see this also in Britain, you see it in Germany, you see it in France. They just, that's the one thing that really seems to motivate them, and maybe that's why Portland, you have a high concentration of sort of self-hating white people. They're gonna organize. They're gonna organize rapidly.
Well, and with Portland too, the very interesting thing is that they had like the most recent legacy, like with the Ku Klux Klan. So there is like a pretty recent memory. There's a history that goes back there. So I think a lot of it is this. It's almost like a penance, right? This sort of self-loathing. This, we have to atone for the sins of our ancestors, real or imagined, right? And then that manifests in the camp of the saints. I mean, the Vauban Books recently released that. It's
Yeah.
a fantastic book. Everyone should
Connor
read it.
Tomlinson did a great review on it too.
He did, yeah, he did. Actually, I did read that, and it really does explain the sort of the psychology of the guilt behind all of this, and it's you can't even really reason people out of it. That's the kind of interesting thing, is it's just so ingrained. It's just
Yeah.
it's very bizarre. Portland is a hotbed. It's been like that for years and years. It's just now becoming sort of a national disgrace.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing, and it's a really tough kind of position to come to, is kind of giving up on debate, because that's what we've prided ourselves on. Like, I think it's appropriate to give Ben Shapiro his flowers, because he really is the one that made conservatives realize how important it is to engage in polemics and like truth and debate and these sorts of things. So I want to give him his flowers there, because he was the first person that really brought that to the internet and like institutionalized that, and I think there's something there. But there's something kind of sad about giving up on the facts don't care about your feelings sort of mentality, and kind of realizing like, yeah, you're not really going to out debate. You're not going to debate an Antifa member and like convince them. It's just they want to kill you. Like people like, that's really hard for people to accept and kind of sort of conceptualize, as like, oh no, he just wants to kill me. He views me as like a belligerent, not like a debate partner.
Well, we saw that with the reaction to the Charlie Kirk stuff, right? People started to see that, okay, even the average sort of lib was like gleefully celebrating it, or doing some sort of tongue-in-cheek, mocking it, sort of this derisive mocking. And so it's, I guess you can sort of convince people on the margins, and the debate, when you debate someone, it's always for the audience, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're always trying to win over the audience through pathos and rhetoric and this sort of stuff. You're not really trying to convince the other person, but so I think that's still effective. That's still
Mhm.
a good thing to do. You just have to realize that a debate can really only happen when there's some sort of common ground, and there's really no common ground between us and these kind of people.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of maybe give some projections the next few months. Because there's this moment after the Kirk assassination where a lot of people are actually comparing it to like the post 9/11 era, where it really feels like how Bush had a mandate after 9/11 is Trump sort of has a mandate after the shooting to clean this up, to mop this up. We're seeing it with the Foreign Terrorist Organization. What are some kind of things that you need to see from the Trump administration to really fully put a lid on the far left political violence that we're enduring?
I think the main thing and the most important thing is just going after the networks behind the scenes. Like, it's not glorious, it's not flashy. You're not going to get those clip-worthy scenes of arresting people. But what you're going to do is you're going to take down the financial incentives that these people have to do what they do. I mean, think about the average person going to like a protest. Let's say, you're a 30-year-old guy, you're a family guy, you got a job. Getting arrested, you could mean you lose your job, you can't go to work, you have to pay a lawyer, you could get a criminal charge, and now you're sort of a black spot on your record. None of these people seem to worry about that, because they
Mhm.
kind of know that they're going to be taken care of at the end of the day, right? And I think that removing that sort of incentive for them is going to be huge going forward, because you're going to get these people to start to be afraid to go out, and afraid to get arrested, and afraid to get abandoned by their Antifa handlers, or whatever. And I think that's to me the most important thing.
Mhm. mean, that kind of seems to be more important than even the successful implementation of policy, is creating the environment. Like with immigration, it's almost like you just want to create the environment that anyone could get deported at any time. And that'll actually prompt self-deportations. Because like ultimately,
Exactly.
even
Yeah.
if you're like the most, if you love watching the ICE raids and these sorts of things, even that person, which there's a lot of us around, would admit that self-deportation is the most preferable because it's just like, A, it's not on our dime, and B, you don't have a video. So it's almost like creating the environment is much more important than the actual implementation.
Well, Biden created, like the Biden regime created an environment where people felt very comfortable to come across the border and get everything they wanted, right? So it's just creating that reverse. Like there was an incentive to come, right? There was this like huge incentive to come, knowing that you're going to be paroled if you're on the TPS program or these sorts of things. You're going to be brought into, wherever in the middle of the country. Whereas now the environment is like you're not welcome and you could be sent home at any time. And that not only has a chilling effect on the people in the country, but it has a chilling effect across these networks where now people are not going to be able to shill human trafficking as easily as they used to be able to, because it gets down. I mean, through WhatsApp channels, through family channels, it gets down to these people that look, this is not as welcoming as it once was, and you shouldn't risk your $5,000 or
Sure.
$10,000 to try and come across.
Do you think this environment could get Hassan Piker denaturalized and deported? I mean, because that's ultimately, I think, the goal.
That would be. I mean, that would be a pipe dream. I would get a Trump tattoo on my back if that happens. I'll get a MAGA tattoo for sure.
Yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah.
But he kind of like, so he was born so from what I understand, I barely remember his background. His mother was like a professor here.
Yeah.
And then he was born here. Like neither of his parents, I don't think, were citizens. And then they moved. So he got citizenship at his birth. And then they moved back to Turkey for most of his life. So like nobody thinks this guy's American. It's this sort of paper fiction.
Yeah.
And
Paperwork
so
American.
the hope is that if you're a paperwork American, the paperwork can just be revoked. So
Right.
we'll hope for that going forward.
Yeah, he's kind of the epitome. Like when you're making the case to someone that's maybe unfamiliar with the issue, Timcast viewers are clued in on this kind of thing. But to people that don't know the Anchor Baby issue very well, I think you can just show them Hassan Piker as kind of an explanation for like maybe why birthright citizenship isn't the best idea, and then they can kind of just put the pieces together themselves. Like, oh yeah, we should probably like make sure that never happens again.
It's just such an insane position to think that you could be born of two non-citizens. Say, like your mother's not here on like a student visa, she's studying, and then your father's like on a work visa, and all of a sudden you've become American just by virtue of being born. It's when you actually like frame it like that and you break it down like that.
Yeah,
I think most people, like got good faith people, will be like, okay, that seems like a broken system to me.
yeah, totally, dude. Well, Martin, dude, we're kind of running out of time. I just want to say, do you have any maybe final thoughts and where people can find you to get more?
No final thoughts. I'm just an internet guy, just an internet troll, just on Twitter, I guess, on X.
Yeah,
I just dead named it, but yeah, that's what we do.
that's what we do. We do a little dead naming. It happens. These things happen. But dude, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
I guess
man.
we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Alrighty. Well, that was the Captive Dreamer, legendary poster. Obviously, I think in large part should get his flowers for getting the Trump administration, sort of reoriented. We were describing it earlier at the beginning of the story. Like, yeah, I remember kind of going, I was like, oh, the energy's a little low for Trump. I mean, like, this is Trump here. It's so enigmatic and that sort of thing. And, dude, yeah, that Haiti moment, and they're in the debate. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. And Kamala thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever. She's cackling. And then you go and you look at what people are saying, like on Facebook, and they're like, "Yeah, they are. Here's a picture of it. Like they actually are doing that." And of course, all the press scrambled to debunk it right away. No, he wasn't. He was kissing the duck. He wasn't eating it. No. So it was a beautiful moment, and it was in large part due to the Captive Dreamer. So let me see here. We're gonna raid. We got a raid scheduled that I was informed about. Let's see. Devori Dawkins, I believe we're raiding today. I don't see him have a live stream up. Oh, wait. Oh no, it says live on the thumbnail, but he's not live. So I don't know. I'll link it in there if it goes live here. But yeah, we'll be back tonight for Timcast IRL. We'll have a great show tonight for you. It's gonna be fantastic. So you'll want to be here at 8 p.m. on the nose. Be ready for it. We'll have another guest host tonight. It's very exciting. With that, you can follow me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Come hang out. Thanks for letting me hold it down this week. I think we got it across the finish line. We're slowly getting getting adequated. I did the opening monologue yesterday. I don't know what you guys thought of that. Maybe you can give me some thoughts if you liked it. If you don't, if you want me to stick with more of the loose style, hey, that's what I'm here for. For Tatecast, it's audience driven. We're a family. We're here at family. It's Olive Garden. So yeah, follow me there, and I don't know when I'll see you guys again. Probably on IRL. I think I'm on IRL Friday. So yeah, we'll see you there. With that, thank you very much.